Okay, welcome to Selling Made Easy. We're going to cover some really interesting things about selling that are going to put you on the right track, and you're going to get to call yourself out from the standpoint of what you're saying about your sales ability so you can get out there, make those offers, build those relationships, and grow your business. Okay, so I have a worksheet that I've supplied here that is going to allow you to do some work after the training. So please use that and let me know how it goes. I'm really curious to hear some of the breakthroughs and awarenesses that you get using that. So thank you for being here, and let's get started. All right, so the first thing I want to cover, when I was making notes and kind of putting this training together, I was thinking, okay, selling is such a huge thing. And as a solopreneur, it is the heart and soul of how we keep our business alive and growing and doing things that we do. It's easy to get caught up in tactical things around marketing, social media, all the wheels turning and everything that we do in order to bring people into our awareness so we can actually sell to them and make an offer, okay? But I want to focus not on marketing today. I want to focus on strictly sales, our selling mindset, okay? But the first thing that I do want to talk about is that we have to have the right messaging in our selling. And if we're not clear about what we're selling, the offers that we're going to make, our messages are going to be unclear. The other more important part of that is if our message isn't clear, then we're not going to be connected to our audience. And the best way to write a clear message is to really understand where our prospect is. What are they dealing with? What are the problems? Where are they stuck? And how are we going to move them forward? And it needs to be super specific and super clear. And so when you do that with your messaging, it becomes that much easier for people to get it. Like, oh, okay. Where we're not being real general and broad, where they kind of have to like, well, I don't know if that fits my problem. Because here's the thing, as human beings, we're constant problem solvers, right? So we are wanting to find ways to solve that problem. And we've already made informed and sometimes uninformed decisions based on our past experiences and our conditioning and what we've been exposed to. So we may think, oh, I need this, when in fact, the real solution is over here. Now, a lot of times we have to message to what they think they need, and then we deliver what they really need. Okay. And sometimes we have to kind of get into that. Now, I know that's kind of a academic, theoretical way to speak about it, but I just wanted to set that up, that the most important thing about doing this type of work is that you are being super clear in your message. Now I'm gonna, like I said, not really talk a lot about marketing. Make sure you know your audience, your prospects, okay? The next thing I wanna cover is you need to know what you're selling. I can't tell you how many times that people don't have a solid offer to present to people. And if you don't know what you're selling, or you can't specifically say, this is what I'm offering you, then it's going to be really hard to listen for the places and spaces to ask the right questions. And you're also not going to be able to make that connection with that prospect that you're talking to, right? So those are the two most important kind of things you have to have in place before you even pick up the phone or get on a Zoom call with your prospect, because if those aren't ready, then you're not ready for the call, okay? Because the sales call is going to be a lot of you asking questions, all right? So I just want to kind of get those two things out there before I get into the real meat and potatoes of selling, which is all driven by your money story. Now, you may have done work around my issues about money, and oh, my dad always raised me to be super frugal, and oh, I don't spend, I always buy the cheapest thing, or oh, I like to negotiate a lot when I shop, right? So everybody has a money story, and our money story is typically developed unconsciously when we're kids, usually around the environment we are raised in. So unless we've done real good mindset work with a coach or a therapist to understand, oh, this is my knee-jerk thinking around money and my deservability of money for me to be successful financially as an independent, especially for women. This is very keen with women because we are very connected to a sense of value and having an impact on others. Like, we want to be valued, we want to be heard, we want to be understood for what we bring to the table, right? But money story is for everyone, male and female. Okay. So the worksheet is going to help you work through figuring out, what is your money story? What are some of the things that you say about money, right? And what decisions have you made as an adult, like that you've adopted as a belief system around money? Now, you would think, okay, what's my money story got anything to do with selling? Well, when it has everything to do with selling, right? Because how we view money equates to how we view ourselves in the situation of value, how we value what we bring to the table. If our money story is such that it diminishes our value, or it's overinflating our value, our offers and our products and our programs that we sell, that we make offers to prospects for, are going to be off. And when I say off, I mean we're going to be pricing our stuff way too low. We're going to be giving away too much. We're going to be discounting, incentivizing, doing all the wrong things that diminish the value of what we do and what we're offering, because we're trying to equal the playing field of what we feel about ourselves and our money story. So the work in the worksheet is really going to help you kind of see all that. And I'll get to a story that kept me, and still is a conscious belief that I have. Like, I'm aware of it. I'm like, I see you over there in the corner. I know you're causing me trouble when I go to do sales, right? So it's like, I am fully aware of this particular belief that I have. And it was something I heard as a kid. And I'll tell that story in a little bit, because you can also have a mindset / belief that really gets in the way of your selling. And that's what comes into your sense of value as well. So all these kind of things come together in our, how we're actually looking at what we're doing as we present ourselves to a prospect, as we, market ourselves to our audience. All of these things need to be figured out or clarified from the standpoint of acknowledging their presence and being able to choose new beliefs, right? And that's what's in your worksheet, how to do that. Choosing new beliefs so you can actually be more successful, not only in sales, but also just in the relationship building, in the conversations that you're doing, in the copy that you're writing, in the strategies that you're using in marketing. And so what that's going to do is it's going to position you and build a beautiful platform that's going to enable you to be really successful when you sell. Okay. Good stuff. Okay. So what I'm going to cover now is what I kind of came up with as best practices for selling. But before I get to that, I want to cover a couple other things that I actually have in Pappy Club in the training that I have there. Now, I'm going to be moving, just FYI, into a much bigger shout of building a business of you. Now, I've always been, like, one of my products is Business of You Generator, right? And it's all about helping my solopreneur experts, my speakers, coaches, trainers, consultants, all raise their their visibility by being themselves, not trying to be a celebrity, not trying to be somebody else that they admire out there doing XYZ, but really being themselves. Well, I'm going to be like really emphasizing that moving forward into the future. And one of the things that I like kind of hit me upside the head about this is, like, people, when you're any of those roles, okay, people want to have a relationship with you, not your product or service. And that's a really huge distinction, because they want to buy you and you are selling you, not your thing. And this is why I love working with solopreneurs, because it enables me, because I've got some natural skills and talents in noticing what makes people unique, what makes them super cool. And 99% of the time, if not 100% of the time, they are not expressing that in the way that they possibly could, which actually really is the secret to marketing, is being yourself. And so when you're looking at selling, when you're looking at, okay, I'm not selling them my program, I'm not selling them my keynote speech, I'm not selling them my workshop or my online course, I'm selling me. They're buying me. And so if you think about when you refer someone to somebody, like, let's say you have a friend or a colleague who's in business and they're looking for, some virtual assistant help or whatever. Well, you don't say blah, blah company, right? You don't say, oh, try FreeUp or Upwork. No, you say, oh my gosh, my friend Lizzie got this amazing VA. Her name is Barbara and she does blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to connect you with Lizzie, right? So you think of the person. And if you look at yourself as I'm selling me, right, not a service or product, you have a completely different conversation. You write completely different emails. You write completely different marketing copy when you look at it's me they're buying. And it also enables you to pull out what makes you unique. Now, I'm going to be doing a lot of training, upcoming training on doing that. So hang tight, okay? So you'll get lots of that from me because that's like my happy place, right? Is helping people be more of themselves. I don't have any problem doing that, right? So let's go ahead and I just want to say one thing before I get into the best practices. There's no magic process. There's no special thing or tactic or manipulation to get someone to buy from you. But you can increase awareness of how you show up on a call. And that's what my best practices are going to touch on, okay? So just to kind of recap what we've covered so far, learn the beliefs, the money story, the sales story that you have, or the actions that bring in money to your solopreneur business, right? And that's where you use the worksheet. I want you to briefly explore the origins of those beliefs and acknowledge they've been unconsciously given to you and they've been unconsciously running you. And so this is where you get them out in the open. You're like, ha, see you in the corner. Stop it. Right? And then the third thing is own that you can create new beliefs around money and create a new money story, which will impact your selling in amazing ways. Okay. Now, note this, by not prospecting and making offers, you're being selfish and keeping your value from people who need it. I'm going to repeat that. By not prospecting and making offers, excuse me. Let me get a sip here. I'm so excited about saying this. By not prospecting and making offers, you are being selfish and keeping your value from people who need it. Okay. So when you kind of get that hat on and say, I don't want to be selfish, right? It gives you a lot more confidence to step through what scares you a little bit about getting on the phone and talking to a stranger and potentially hearing no, or being rejected, or being judged, or saying the wrong thing, all the head crap that we have when we go to have a conversation with somebody. Okay. And you know what's really ironic? Selling has been the hardest thing in my business. I'll be 100% transparent. It has been the hardest thing because my whole corporate career has always been me creating all these assets, writing, designing, directing a creative team, all of those things. So it was always kind of behind the scenes. I never really had to sell. I was always hired for my talent. And so when I started my business in 2006, I was like, holy crap, in order for me to get business, I got to go out there and say, buy for me, right? And that was so hard for me. And I was coming out of, coming into widowhood, if you will, just lost my huge corporate job with Marriott. And here I am. And so I started selling myself as a freelance graphic designer. I literally was taking what I did for the corporate people and just offering it to these kind of whoever would come along and hire me to design a website, write copy, whatever, right? And it was such a diminishment of my value because I didn't know how to assert myself in my own space. And so I tell you what, being in business for yourself is like an amazing personal growth plan. I will tell you that right now. But over the years, over almost 15 years now, I have come to grips with my own challenge around value, selling and all of those things. And ironically, as part of this journey, I wrote a book on selling. So yeah, if you go on Amazon, it's called Confident Entrepreneur Guide to Selling. Sell with more confidence and achieve better results. I crack myself up. I know, it's like the life's ironies, right? Okay. So the one thing I just want to say above all advice or learnings or things that I'm giving you right now, the number one thing that's going to get you business is get your butt out there and have conversations. And these are conversations that are all about serving, because selling is serving. And when you shift your mindset to a servant mindset, you are going to show up differently. Your tonality is going to be different. You're going to ask really great probing questions. And all of a sudden, this prospect that you have on that call or on a Zoom, or, you may be doing emails together, is they're going to be like, wow, this person is really showing up different. Like they are listening and they care. And that is the key to selling. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to go through my best practices for you. Now, this is also in the worksheet, so you can get it from there and use whatever works for you. Okay. So some of this is like how I approach it. And the first one is, when it comes to prospecting and selling. Now, none of these are really marketing, okay? Because that's a whole nother, that's like a 4-day training right there. The first thing is use a CRM, okay? So the most important thing is that you stay on top of and, aware of the people that you're selling to and that you're trying to build these relationships with. And I use Copper and ActiveCampaign. So ActiveCampaign is more like email automation, and Copper is a true, pure CRM. Okay, those are the two I use, but there are many out there. Find one that works for you. Okay, number 2, schedule it and do it every day. Schedule it and do it every day. And I don't care if you just spend 15 minutes, sending out 5 emails. I had this one rule that I did for a while, and it actually really kind of got me into a habit of just being in action. And it was like, Terry, make 5 calls a day. 5 calls a day, 5 calls a day. And I did. 99% of them went right to voicemail, but I got calls back, or I got an email back. And I think that, we all have our phones turned on to that silent or, spam filter thing. So if you're not in someone's contact address book, which a prospect who is a cold prospect probably won't be, it'll go to voicemail. So don't ever feel bad about something going to voicemail. Use it as an opportunity to, really refine your message. Leave them a nice voicemail that's specific, and leave your contact information and say you're going to follow up via email. Okay, so that's a super important thing. Number 3, which alludes to what I just said, make it easy for people to contact you. Okay, so you want them to find you. You want them to be super easy. Give them your cell phone. Give them your email address. Don't worry about social media unless you're using in that specific, channel. Like if you're in LinkedIn, they're going to know you're LinkedIn because you're the one messaging them, right? So, but when you're leaving a voicemail, when you're sending an email, make sure it's in your signature, make sure you repeat it in your text, and make it easy for them to find you. That also means on your website, be super transparent. Put your cell phone, put your email address, or if you have a catch-all email, like I use info@better3.com, and that catches all the email. And yeah, you'll get some spam, but you know what? I'd rather get a little spam than nobody reaching out to me because I'm not facilitating the connection. Okay. Number 4, be consistent. Whatever you're doing, this is why it's great to have it scheduled and do a little bit every day. Is make sure you're being consistent, because you will train yourself into a new behavior. I used to do it like first thing in the morning. Like I do all my morning routine to get myself in the work headspace, meditation, journaling, just get myself fed and coffee or whatever I do. And then the first thing I do work-wise is make those 5 calls when I was doing that strategy. Number 5 is follow up professionally. Okay. So when I say professionally, it's like, you want to be professional, right? Again, give your contact information. Say specifically what you want to talk to them about. Don't be like, hey, it'd be great to chat and get to know you. We want to be really specific so they can actually we want to equip them with a decision that this is going to be something that's going to be of value for me. Okay. And as you're doing that, you want to make sure that you're offering value. Like, this is what you'll get out of this conversation. Okay. So, and that's getting into some weeds there on that. And I can coach you offline about that. Number 6, and this is something I did all the time. Do not give your consulting for free. Do not give your consulting for free. And I remember when I was doing sales training with Sandler, this was years ago, and they had a term for it. They call it free consulting. Oh, you were free consulting. I'm like, yeah. And I get on a conversation with a prospect and they'd say, this is my problem. Well, all of a sudden, I'm like, well, this is what you should do. And then you should try this. And then have you done that? So instead of making it more about getting to the heart of why they were struggling or why they were having that problem, I just gave it to them. So they're like, okay, great. Thanks for all that free stuff. I remember I had that conversation with somebody who actually set a time to pitch me. This was an NSA speaker, and they were pitching me on some sales training or something. And I started asking questions, right? Like, I kind of flipped the conversation a little bit. I'm like, so, and I found out that he was getting a lot of prospects that were not qualified for his big program that he was trying to sell me. And and I said, well, what you should do is develop a smaller program that's like a bridge program that gets them educated to the point where they can be ready for your bigger program. And he's like, I never thought of that. Well, he turned around and did it. And he added $5,000, like in the first 2 months, he added $5,000 to his monthly revenue just by doing that. It was a small, like a couple $100 training program. He made it into an online course, so he didn't have to do it. It was automated. Like Terry, why did you just give this to him? So that's actually number 6. Do not give away free consulting. Number 7 is never make the call about you. Never make the call about you. So this is going to help you be super clear about questioning, asking questions, constantly probing, constantly saying, well, let me ask you a question about that. Why did you make that choice as opposed to another choice? Number 8, there's 10, by the way. Number 8 is be patient, upbeat, and breathe on your calls. And this was reminded, I got reminded of this by Chris Kenny, who's a great sales trainer, by the way. And he's like, whenever you feel yourself, like if a prospect is all of a sudden starting to show resistance or giving you objections when you ask, or when you present an offer or ask a question, it's very easy to get triggered by a prospect's response to what we're doing and saying. And when that happens, you want to stop and take a super deep breath and then ask a question. Okay, so that's a great, speaking of tactics and techniques, that's a great technique, because what will happen is when you feel that trigger or you feel a little threatened, like you're going to go on the defense, like try to defend what you're selling and why it's important that they buy it, your tonality will change. And what that'll do is that will make your prospect be much more resistant. And so it'll just kind of go south from there, right? So that's a very subtle thing that we get so kind of like happy little puppies on these calls, especially when a prospect is showing interest and like, well, yeah, that sounds really good. Like, yeah, you're right. I need to fix that. And all these, signs that they're leaning in, right? And we get a little excited. And then all of a sudden, something happens. And then we get, oh, shit, and then we get defensive, right? Well, that's where the breathing can really help. And it also helps us not be so in our question that we stop listening to what they're saying. Okay, so that's number 8. Number 9 is, and I talked about this in the beginning, make an offer. This kind of ties into, the breathing and being patient and upbeat and the free consulting, right? The last 2 I covered, because sometimes we get so caught up in being of service in the call. I know I am, because I'm like totally such a giver all the time. We forget to make an offer. We forget to say, okay, well, how about if we try this? Or, well, I actually have a program that I think you'd be perfect for. And then you say what it is, and then you make the offer, right? So make sure, this is why it's so important to know what your offer is, because you want to get in that call and you want to be prepared to make that offer. Okay. And then the last thing, number 10, is be open to helping them if they're not a fit. So if you get on the call and through all the probing questioning, you realize they're not a fit. So they're, whether it's a budget problem or whether they're, the solution you have is just really not, through that exploration, that discovery, you realize that they're just not the right fit, or they're behaving in such a way that you're like, ooh, this would be a problem. Like flags are going up in the air and you're like, ooh, I don't think I want to work with this particular person, because they're like so in denial about the reality of their business or life or whatever it is that you address. Then you want to make sure that you're still creating a relationship and you're still being of service and offering help to them. And help could be something simple like, well, I'd love to put you on my email list. I've got some great videos that may help you. Or, oh, there's this one, for stress management, I use this yoga on YouTube, and I'll send you a link to her channel. Or, oh, I have this great VA, talking about Lizzie, who I was referring to earlier, that could really help you with that. So let me introduce you guys. I've done that many times on prospecting calls, even in addition to making an offer and getting the sale. So those are some of the things that are important to me from the standpoint of best practices. Those are also in your worksheet. So I want to, just remind you that your attitude about money and selling your service is 95% of why you're not doing better. So when you fix your mindset, you'll fix your sales. The remaining 5%, and it's a big 5%, is about being in serious, consistent action. And that's what's going to do it. And I was referring to a story, just to wrap up here, that my big thing around selling wasn't that I was afraid to get on the phone and talk to people. I love to talk to people, right? I love to get to know people. I'm a big researcher because I'm a writer, and I love to research, like, what are you struggling with? What is your world like? What is, going on? And what's cool about that is it enables me to really make progress and grow my business, because I am learning a lot of great things about my audience. However, my big thing that was causing all of this resistance around sales was due to one belief that I got as a kid, that I adopted as a child, right? I wasn't a victim of that belief. Beliefs are all just thoughts we think that we keep agreeing with and justifying with reality, right? So that's what a belief is. And when I was a kid, I was the youngest of 4 by a lot. Like there was 9 years between me and my next sister. And so my dad was launching a business and my mom was sick. She was in a wheelchair and it was just chaotic. I was this little kid running around like a freak. I had a ton of energy, was starving for attention, didn't really know who I belonged to, where I belonged, what I should do. And so I drove my dad crazy. And after raising 3 kids, he's got this firecracker of a kid coming along, causing all this mayhem, right? And he just wanted me to be quiet, please. So whenever I annoyed him or was making noise and being Terry, right? He would always say, children should be seen and not heard. Children should be seen and not heard. And that was just his way of communicating to me, quiet, please. I've had a long day. I'm dealing with a lot of stuff. Can you just please calm down? And so I carried that unconsciously my whole life. And so everywhere I went, everything I did, I was all about, oh, I don't want to bother anybody. So I always had that story, still do. That's the thing in the corner that I'm like, I see you over there. That keeps me behind the curtain. It's kept my business small, right, over the years. And it wasn't until I really kind of got a hold of that and said, okay, I acknowledge that. I get that that's my wiring and I'm predisposed to resist bothering people. And that especially shows up when I'm doing cold calling, like reaching out to someone who doesn't know me, who I haven't been introduced to, like they're not a warm referral. And so my first 5, 6, 7 years of my business, all my business came to me through referrals. So I was like, woo, this is great. So I didn't really know that this selling challenge, this belief that I had was even present until until I started having to get out there and introduce myself to people. And that's what I have dealt with and are still dealing with and still dealing with today. So even me, someone who's learning about selling and training on selling and wrote a book on selling, is, you know what they say, it's like we teach what we need to learn ourselves, right? And so I'll just leave you with that story, and I wish you happy sales. Always be yourself and remember to breathe.